Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Hey, this is Michael Tourek, and you're listening to Zero Dark Nerdy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another amazing episode of Zero Dark Nerdy, the world's most notorious pop culture podcast.
The filthiest of the filthy.
This is your boy, Brian, a.k.a. El Nino. And before we get into our episode with our very special guest today, I do want to give some shout outs out there to a few of our sponsors. Of course, the Believe Podcast Network, the podcast network for professionals, and betonline.ag. We cannot forget Four Saints Brewing out in Asheboro, North Carolina. If you cannot make it out to Asheboro, they are in local supermarkets and stores across the Carolinas. So be sure to hit up their website. The website is foursaintsbrewing.com. Spell out the number 4, and it'll lead you to where your closest store is to get their incredibly, incredibly tasty products. So without further ado, we have back. It's been a while. It's been a couple years. I know we did the food tasting demo over at Stumbles. Before that, it was right after season 1 of Ozark wrapped up, and then we're getting ready to get into season 2. So the one, the only Michael Tourek in the building.
Hey, yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's such an honor to be back.
Hey, man, it's so good to have you back. And especially when you're in town, we definitely got to have you back in the studio over here. So when I hit you up today to join me on the podcast, you said you're in Atlanta. I figure you're probably there for work. So I know you probably can't say everything you're getting into, but what have you been up to? I know it's been a couple of years since you've been on. So what have you been up to as far as film, stage, the whole 9 yards?
A couple years. I think it's been 4.
Yeah, it was definitely season 1. It was definitely season 1.
Season 1
dropped in
2017.
It was about 2 years ago.
But regardless, aside from COVID, like everybody else, and that sort of occupied the last year and a half of my life. Mm-hmm. This has been a pretty good year career-wise. It all kind of started to take head and really take steam. That's what I wanted to say. Take steam in July. And I booked a role on a show. See, this is where I get a little weird or interesting about the whole NDA thing, because I don't think I'm officially allowed to tell you what it is,
right, without
permission from the network. Okay. Yet the network has already released it on IMDb as to what I'm currently working on. So really what I've been telling people is that I'm finally working on a show that was at one time the most popular show on television. It has since maybe or maybe not jumped the shark, depending on your viewership of it, yet it has still got a huge cult following. And it may or may not be in its last season. So so I'm working on that. Super excited to be working on that. I've been trying to get on this show for a really long time, since I moved to North Carolina from New York. But the last year and a half, 2, 3, 4 years, I mean, aside from, I did Boss Level.
Right.
With Frank Grillo and Mel Gibson and Gronkowski. And we had talked about coming on and talking about that. But that was a crazy experience, if for no other reason than I got to hang out with Rashad Evans and Rampage Jackson, MMA guys. They were nuts and just really fun to hang out with. There was Harriet was in there. Okay. Small little part in the movie Harriet. A couple of other things. In honor of Halloween, I got to work on this horror movie called Hellfest. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they even created a meme about me, which was a lot of fun. But aside from that, COVID, it's really been hanging out with my family and really enjoy, as tough as that's been, I think, for everybody, right? Just societally, it's been really amazing sort of having that time with my kids and just trying to navigate that together.
Right.
That was a lot. Like, I covered a lot of things in one fell answer. No. Sorry about that.
You did fantastic. And
we're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back on for another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for the all-pro and college football action this season. With an updated new site, interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Fantastic. And, for a lot of you that may not have listened to the episodes that Michael's been on, he comes from our background, service industry, Greensboro, native-ish. I know that you moved down here, like we all did. We all just kind of, I don't want to say got stuck in Greensboro, but Greensboro is our home, and a home that we cherish. And we like to applaud and support those that are coming up in the arts. And I mean, between Triad Stage and everything else you've been doing, you've had our 100% support since day one, just getting to know you and meet you. And I know we talked about Boss Level a little bit, and I know you can't talk too much into detail about the next project you're in, even though you gave out some good, Easter eggs out there. You're in Atlanta, right? Final season, cult following. I get it. I'm not going to say anything to blow up the spot over there. But as far as, upcoming projects that you have coming up next that you could speak about, are there any? And then besides that, talk to us a little bit about just COVID in general. You literally nailed it on the head as far as getting ready, spending time with family. I mean, that was, as much as last year sucked, the one thing I enjoyed the most out of it was the fact that I got to work 100% remote and spend probably more time with my daughter than I had my entire life, especially coming up in the service industry, and then working a 9 to 5, and then with the podcast and everything else. And then for you, I'm sure it's the same, coming up as an actor and, being on the road and things like that. So, just kind of talk about a little bit about just enjoying the family life and going from there.
Well, to your first question, there are a couple of things coming up that I can talk about. There was a great series with Jeff Daniels and Moira Tierney going to Showtime called American Rust.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing the previews for that.
Yeah. I've got a really small role in that, and it was interesting because that sort of piggybacks off of the COVID thing. Right before COVID hit, I booked a really awesome role on this DC Comics show called Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
Great walk-on guest star spot. I mean, we had a blast for the 2 weeks that we were on air or that we were on set. And then that had sort of opened the doors to a bunch of other things. And then, like everybody, I had sort of my COVID misses, things lined up that were going to happen, and then COVID hit and everything shut down. And I look at this industry as a whole, and I'm just thinking, well, I'm so thankful and glad that it's all coming back. But it really was, it took me about 6 months to really appreciate and articulate, I've got this extra time with my kids. I should really get to know them, because not only did I have to all of a sudden transition all of the classes that I taught to online, I now had to learn to be a teacher to my children. And I didn't go to school to be an elementary school teacher. I went to school to be an actor and an acting teacher. So that was a bit of a headache at first, but I think once that we sort of established some ground rules, it was really kind of amazing. Just, having that time. You hear people all the time talk about, don't waste your time with the kids, and it'll be gone before you know it. And they're going to learn how to drive. And the next thing you know, they're in college and they're married and they're out of the house. And you look back and you go, oh, what happened with all this time with my kids? And that was a nice sort of reminder of like, oh, I've got this time. Let's enjoy it. And I'd be lying to you if I told you that wasn't without its stresses and its headaches and its frustrations. But that was an amazing time that I think is great. And then, coming out of that, coming back to what's coming up, I got an offer of a part in this really small movie from a local Greensboro filmmaker, and it was a straight to offer part. And so I agreed to do it because I hadn't done anything in like a year and a half because of COVID. And I also wasn't getting any auditions when it slowly started to ramp back up. It took a while for that to pick up for me.
Yeah.
And so I agreed to do this part. And then from there, I got this small part in Rust, which I normally would have turned down 2 years ago just because of where the career was at. But I was talking to my team, my manager and my agent, and they were like, oh, I think that you should probably just go do the job and get back into the swing of things. And then, that led to the thing I'm on now. It led to another opportunity that I think I'm shooting in December called Wilkes County Line, that they're going to shoot down in Wilkes County. And it's about the birth of NASCAR from the running of moonshine. And it's a comedy and it's hysterical. And I get to play this crazy Scottish moonshiner. And so there's a lot of good things now coming for me, and I hope for all of us, out of COVID. Yeah. As we start to turn the corner, right? So wrote a couple of short films that we're going to produce and shoot, I think, next year. Nice. So it's been good. Yeah. That's
awesome. So speaking of the short films, is this something that you're doing on your own as far as your own production company, or did you have like kind of, some people that were backing you since you got into the industry? Like, talk about that a little bit.
Oh, it's a little bit of both. Okay. I've always delusionally fashioned myself as a writer, but never really knew what I was doing. And a friend and colleague of mine named Emily Emerson wrote this 10-minute play that I saw a reading of, and I was like, wow, that'd make a really good short film. And so I reached out to her and I said, hey, officially, can I option the rights to your play? I'd like to adapt it to a short film. And she said yes. And so I wrote that, sent it to her. She liked it. And then I reached out to some, as we've already talked about, some really solid local Greensboro filmmakers and actors. And I said, hey, here's this movie that I want to shoot. And the guy that I brought on to direct it said, hey, this is great, but I don't want to shoot it like a standard movie. Let's do it like a one shot. Okay. So I had to rewrite the script to reflect a single setting straight through. It was 7 pages, and we staged it like a play, and we rolled camera, and we shot through the whole thing, and we did about 5 takes, and ended up getting one that we really liked. And so hopefully that comes out soon. We're still in post production, but as far as your question, I've always had a production company just in case I want to do different things. It's never really been a focus of mine.
Sure.
But there's another short film that I've written and have brought on another writer and director so we're now co-writing. And that one is based off of the poetry that my best friend in the world wrote. And is a guy that I've always respected for his artistry and his words and his language. And I was really inspired one day by this poem that he wrote just about a struggling factory worker going into work, punching in at 8 a.m. every day. And I thought, what happens to a man in life who loses the sight of his artistry because of the necessities of life? Right. And so I wrote this short film kind of based on that, and we're going to shoot that in March, I think. So I'm looking forward to it.
No matter how fast you are, no one outruns their past. Vin Diesel returns for the 9th chapter of the worldwide blockbuster series in F9, The Fast Saga. Also starring John Cena, own F9, The Fast Saga, with the never-before-seen director's cut and all new bonus content on 4K UHD and Blu-ray and digital.
In regards to that, for those of us that are just curious as far as the process goes, I figure a lot of times you don't have, it's not already backed by Netflix, HBO Max, however it goes. So how does that? Yeah, you're like, God, I wish. So, for those out there that are just kind of curious how it works, whether if it's just a short movie or they're trying to pilot, something like that. Oh. How does that process work as far as when you filmed it, you're good, you're very happy with the product? Like, how tedious is that, presenting it to the Netflixes of the world, the HBOs, the movie studios, because I know it's a grind. A lot of people think, for instance, obviously the biggest name right now in pretty much streaming is Squid Game. And this guy, it took him 10 years.
Yeah, I'm on episode 3.
Right. Oh, yeah. I will not spoil it for you. I love it. Yeah, it took him 10 years to get this thing, made. So a lot of people need to understand, like, look, this isn't like an overnight thing. And I just would love to hear your experience when it comes to something that you're so passionate about, and then the process of, all right, so how do we get this to the screen?
Right. There's that great Seneca quote that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's just the idea of living truthfully to your art and doing anything that you can to constantly create your own content and have it ready and get it out there when you can. I got to tell you, Brian, to specifically answer your question, I have no idea, because
Right.
this is the first thing I've ever really produced.
Okay.
Right. So this short little film that we just shot 4 weeks ago, we shot for zero budget.
Yeah.
And it was just a bunch of filmmakers and actors getting together to make a movie and see what we could create.
Yeah.
Now, we have a plan for it, and that plan will be a festival plan, getting it out to festivals. And if people like it and it gets some traction, then really projects like that, like short films, are really designed to get you noticed by those studio people so that they then go, oh, hey, we really liked what you did here. Do you have anything else that you're working on? What can we help you with?
Sure.
Right? But as far as like getting a network show on television, dude, that's, good luck. I wish anyone out there listening, if you know how to do it, let me know, because I've got plenty of friends that are writing specs for television shows that could totally have their foot in the door. But, I'd just like to think about it as just, if an opportunity presents itself for you,
Right.
be ready to go.
Yeah. And
Right.
that's awesome too, because you're doing it with passionate people. And I'm a firm believer, when you're passionate about something, it comes across on the screen, it comes across on the microphone. And I'm not saying that it works every single time, but for someone like yourself, who's, just such a great person. And if you have your heart and soul into it, I do believe like good things come out of it. I mean, I've seen little bitty 2-minute shorts become full-length horror movies. Where it's crazy how it goes out there. And someone like my daughter, 20-year-old college student at UNCW, who goes to film school, I'm always telling her, like, look, you never know. You may not think it's
Right.
perfect, but did you try your best on it? Well, yeah, Dad, I did. Okay, well, get it out there. Who knows?
Yeah. You just got to put it out there and hope, right? And if it doesn't hit, or it takes 10 years to hit, like Squid Game or whatever, at least you put yourself out there and you have the knowledge and the pride of going, you know what, I for lack of a better phrase, I exposed myself. I was vulnerable. I showed you my art. I hope that you liked it. And if not, oh well, I'm going to keep creating, and keep grinding.
Yeah, as you should, brother. So we are in the month of October. We got Halloween amongst us here, and we will be asking guests as the month goes on, as far as favorite horror movies, TV shows, things like that. So and then not just so much horror, but just Halloween-ish, what are some of your things, whether growing up or even now that you're just passionate about, whether if it's movies, TV shows that are, Halloween/horror based, like what are some things that you're just truly, truly passionate about?
Well, candy. First and foremost, I gotta say the candy. I did a little research and I looked at some stuff, because I didn't want to come into this unprepared and just flying off the cuff. Because I thought about this too. I was like, man, what do I like? And the reality of it is that I'm not a huge fan of that sort of slasher, Saw, that bloody genre type of Halloween movies. I remember when I thought about this, I was always freaked out, and I loved like The Exorcist. The original Exorcist was one of my favorite films growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
And I really liked to be scared as a kid, but I was really more of that psychological thriller kind of. I was into that sort of genre, and I think The Exorcist had a nice balance of that. I'll never forget that clip of the old woman crawling across the ceiling on the top. It just, every time, it scared me, right? And things of that nature. And I can't remember, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I have this thought in my head that it was the sequel to The Ring. Mm-hmm. When The Ring came out, we all went to go see it. We were living in New York. My wife now, our best friends in New York, we all went to go see The Ring, and the movie freaked us out. And my wife has to go see scary movies during the day, because she has to know that it's light outside when we leave the theater. But we went to go see the second one, and I was like, man, this is the worst movie I have ever seen. And I think that it just sort of turned me off to that whole sort of genre. But yet all my friends, somebody just sent me the request, like, you should watch this movie. And I should have written it down, but I can't remember what it is. But I mentioned earlier that I was in Hellfest.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched it because I I heard it's not very good. I mean, according to Rotten Tomatoes and the things, it was a meh. And some of my filmmaker friends in North Carolina that have watched it have gone, meh. But, I like that show You.
Yeah.
That's on Netflix, the psychological thrillers. I was a big fan of The Twilight Zone growing up as a kid, which then I started to watch. My students that I teach love Black Mirror. Mm-hmm. So I'll watch an episode or two of Black Mirror here and there. The funny thing though is that I never finished the series or anything like that. Like I started Mr. Robot, but I think I got maybe 6 or 7 episodes in and then got distracted by it. So, that's it. Those are my preferences. What was it? Creep Show? Remember Creep Show?
Oh yes.
The original Creep Show. That was a good one. What was the one? There was one, Cat's Eye. Remember that movie Cat's Eye with Drew Barrymore?
Yep.
Where the cat crawled up. I still I don't like cats today because I don't like them when they crawl up and sucking the soul out of my mouth. But was it the movie Creep Show where the guy got infested with cockroaches and the cockroaches started to come up? Yeah. So that to this day, that is the one insect that I am absolutely phobic over. Are cockroaches. I can handle anything other than creepy crawly, but I see a cockroach and I'm just oh, I can't. No, thank you. No, thank you. All because of that original Creep Show.
I'm the same way. And again, just like you said, I'm a huge fan of the Creep Show. 1 and 2 wasn't the greatest. I really liked The Raft, but besides that, Creep Show 2 failed on that. But I thought Creep Show 1 was absolutely amazing. So you mentioned candy. I mean, candy is the best part about Halloween. Now, do you have maybe a top 2, 3 favorite just all time candy bars, whether if you're trick or treating or just in general, even just movie candy that you just got to have?
Oh, see, well, then you're getting into a whole bunch of different genres there, right? So since you asked movie, my favorite movie candy of all time is Dots. Okay. Followed closely by a hot tamale. Okay. That's the movie candy. My go-to candy of choice is anything by Reese's. All right. The peanut butter cups, the sticks. I love the Reese's sticks. Mm-hmm. And now they could stuff that thing with anything and I'd probably eat it. So, pretzels and more Reese's and triple stuffed Reese's and all that stuff is amazing. And I'm a big sucker for sweet and salty. Okay. Together. I love to make my own homemade chocolate covered pretzels at the holidays. All right. So I love that's 3. I gave you 3.
There you go. No, that's good. Yeah. And if you're in town for Halloween, I'm definitely coming by for the chocolate covered.
So you got to wait till Thanksgiving for that. Halloween, I'll just probably give you some cheap candy bars or some Smarties or something like that.
There you go. Yeah, I usually go
those knockoff Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah. I'm the cheap neighbor, even though when I was younger, we would purposely go to the rich neighborhoods to get the king size or even the regular size candy bars. But besides that, when you're in a regular neighborhood, you're just hoping for some candy and you're not hoping to get the person that gives you toothbrushes and candied apples.
And I'm old enough, and I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but I'm old enough to remember back when you were allowed to give away homemade goods. We had houses in our neighborhood that would give away homemade popcorn balls and homemade caramel covered apples and homemade and it was amazing. And then there was that one moment, and I don't know what it was, in the 80s, somebody decided that they were going to put razor blades in candy bars and inject chocolate with poison. And then it became all about checking each individual wrapper and all this stuff. And now this year, my wife's talking about individually wiping every piece of candy with a Clorox wipe before my kids can open up the bag and eat it. And I was like, okay, if it's not one thing, it's another. And that's okay, because at least the kids finally get to go trick or treating. Right. It's just, we're just going to have to clean all the candy before. Right. Yeah. Regardless of what science says. But no, yeah. So I loved trick or treating as a kid, going out, and we had a good time.
There you go. So speaking of trick or treating, do you have just a favorite all time costume that you ever worn, whether younger, as a dad now? What are some of your top 2, 3 favorite costumes you've ever had?
I remember the year that and this was when I was a kid, I really wanted to go as Blinky. the red ghost from Pac-Man.
Yeah.
But the best that we could come up with was a dyed sheet, and I ended up looking pink, and so I had to go as the pink ghost. Even though, and I got teased because everyone thought I was playing the girl ghost, and I was like, no, I'm Blinky, the red ghost, but the red didn't come out very well.
Right.
I don't know why that sticks in my head, but I tell you, my favorite Halloween costumes ever were always as a bartender, especially bartending on Halloween. And my favorite one, I had two. One year I took a big planter, a patio garden planter, and I cut the bottom out of it and I strapped it to me like with overalls, and then I lined the whole thing with greenery and I went as a potted plant.
Nice.
So that was fun. But then my favorite one year was I just wore the traditional all black as a bartender, and I took socks and underwear and maybe some of my wife's unmentionables, and I sewed them all over my clothes, and I put a dryer sheet in my back pocket for irony, and I went as Static Kling.
I like that. I've never seen the Static Kling one.
That was my favorite bartenders because it was funny.
Right.
And I was mobile behind the bar on a busy night, so it worked out pretty well.
And that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize out there, as you know, two former bartenders here, you have to pick something that's funny, but also that isn't going to weigh you down and make you sweat more than you already are running across a packed bar. Because we already know Halloween is one of like the three, as we like to call it, bar tourist holidays, to where people that don't normally come out. You know, New Year's Eve is 1, St. Patty's is 2, Halloween is right there at 3. And you just want to make sure you don't want to go too far all out to get weighed down and have the makeup dripping off of you, but you still want to look good enough to make tips and get a good laugh.
Do you have one? What's your favorite?
For a few years though, I did the Clark Kent, which was just the white shirt, and then I had it pinned so you could see the Superman shirt underneath. Oh, nice. And a friend of mine taught me to put like a clothes hanger, one of the ones you get from like the dry cleaners, to put it into the tie to make it look like it's flapping in the wind.
Oh, yeah.
Then I did just like the black hat with the little press sign on it. So that was my go-to for a few years because it's just comfortable to work in. I don't have to do too much. Besides that, as I got older, I decided to get a little bit smarter with some of my outfits. There was one when I was a little bit younger. I was Jules from Pulp Fiction, and really just the hottest thing about that outfit, because it was just a white shirt, blood splatter, black tie, black pants. But then I had an afro cut out, just like Jules. And I literally went to Great Clips and had my friend cut the afro down the size, because it was like one of the ones you get at Party City, a huge one. And I just remember sitting in that chair. And luckily at that point, the cameras on cell phones, I don't even know if there were cameras on cell phones at this point, because this was about 2002, 2003. So even if there were, they weren't great. But just people just kind of sitting there at Great Clips, like, what is this guy doing here, getting his fake afro cut down the size?
I love that.
But yeah, as I gotten older, I just try to be more conventional with it. And it's not just bartending, just honestly in general, when it comes to trick or treating or even going to conventions and cosplaying. I'm a big fan of wearing the Average Joe's outfit from Dodgeball. That always gets a good little kick at New York Comic Con and just random stuff here and there. But yeah, I guess you could say my bartending go-to would probably be the Clark Kent with just the white shirt, the Superman shirt underneath it. And then not the cape, but just the tie kind of flapping in the wind, and then the press hat.
Yeah, I need to find, I've lost, I don't want to say that I've lost my joy for Halloween. Obviously, COVID has dampened a lot. Sure. I mean, a lot of it for everybody, right? But I just remember, man, growing up, we used to do crazy stuff for Halloween. Like one year we turned my garage into a maze, and the kids would have to walk through the maze and, stick their hand in the spaghetti for brains and peel grapes for eyeballs and we do all that stuff. And I live now in a really popular neighborhood where the kids from all over Greensboro come and they park and they walk through Adams Farm for trick or treating.
Right.
But we're on the other side of the Adams Farm Parkway, we're in a circle and we don't get a lot of foot traffic. And nobody on our circle celebrates Halloween.
Oh,
but ever since. So, but having kids, as you know, is hard, and I'm tired all the time. But now that they're getting older, I'm hoping to maybe sort of get back in. Like we just now, like in the last 2 years, started to decorate the house, and every year it gets a little more decked out for Halloween. And, last year we added this screaming mat that every time you stepped on our front mat, it would scream at you. And the kids and seeing their love and their joy for it is starting to bring it back for me. And so I'm looking forward to that one day when I go, hey, son, let's build a maze in our garage and do some crazy stuff and get all goofied out and be silly for this one day, because it's a great excuse to do it. So why not?
Where can people find you in terms of social media, website, YouTube, Instagram, all that fun stuff?
So it's the easiest. It's just Michael Tourek. It's just Tourek at you pick social media site from there. The website is michaeltourek.com. The Instagram is at Michael Tourek. The Twitter is at Michael Tourek. The Facebook page is at Michael Tourek. The Facebook actor page, I think, is the only one that is Mike Tourek, because for whatever reason, Facebook won't let you use the same name for your personal account and your professional account, which I think is silly. But the best place to follow me and figure out what's going on is Instagram. That's the one I use the most, and the website. And I will tell you, just as another selfless, shameless, that's hard to say back to back, selfless, shameless plug. There will be some grassroots campaigning going on to raise money for this short film that we're shooting next year in the spring, because we're really looking to do this one up right and put a little money behind it. We've got some amazing local filmmakers and artists involved in the development of it, and we'll release all those names and that team when it's time. And really looking to hit the festival circuit with that. But yeah, at Michael Tourek is the easiest way to find me.
Awesome. And please, keep us in mind when it comes to the grassroots campaign. We love supporting local. We love having you on.
Oh, absolutely.
Anything we can do to help out, we will blast it all over the website, all the events. That's the great thing about the world, at least opening back up a little bit now, is getting out there and meeting our fans and just having these events and movie premiere parties, this, any other, which we would love to have you involved with whenever you're in town. So everybody just, hang tight, listen up. We do have some stuff planned. We just got to make sure, once we get past all what's been going on, we'll do it. So not to get too political. We're not a political podcast. I love everybody and I want everybody to be okay. So once we feel it's okay to start promoting events without having to have all kinds of different restrictions and whatnot, we'll go from there. But in the meantime, though, anything we can do to support you, Mike, and of course the short film, the projects, whatever, please never hesitate to ask. So again, big thank you to Michael Tourek out there. Going to throw him some air horns.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Of course. Hang out with us for just a second. As always, big shout outs to Believe Podcast Network, betonline.ag for all your online sports betting purposes. And of course, our good friends at Four Saints Brewing in Asheboro, North Carolina. FourSaintsBrewing.com is the website. Good beer for good people. If you can't make it to Asheboro, check out the website. I guarantee you there's probably a spot, maybe 10, 20 miles max near you that sells some of their delicious beers. And on behalf of everybody from Zero Dark Nerdy, we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Yeah! Victory!
And anger management?
Fuck anger management.
Thank you for listening to Believe. You can show support to your host by subscribing to the show and giving us a 5-star rating on your preferred platform. Check us out at Believe.com and search for BLEAV on YouTube.
You know when you're listening to a true crime story that has an unbelievable plot twist that makes you stop in your tracks? That's what our podcast, People Are the Worst, brings you with each episode. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Rebecca. We're identical twins who love true crime cases that make you say, didn't see that coming, and we hate the people responsible for them. Listen to People Are the Worst now on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.